Ever wonder what it really takes to build a business and a life that feels like yours? Welcome to That Big CEO Energy. I'm Callie, entrepreneur, operations whiz, and your go-to for the real, raw, and unfiltered side of business and life. Because let's be honest, entrepreneurship isn't just about strategy and success. It's about figuring out who you are in the messy middle, trying new things, just because you can, and creating a life that actually fits you. From solo deep dives to candid convos with powerhouse business owners, we're talking all about the highs and the lows and the "why did no one warn me about this?" moments that come while chasing big dreams. So let's get uncomfortable, embrace the chaos, and make it happen. Let's talk about the voice. You know the one. The voice that shows up before you've even had your coffee. The voice that tells you that you're behind, that you're not enough, that you're messing it all up, right? We all know what that voice sounds like. And maybe it's the voice that questions your decisions, your body, your leadership, your worth. And it sounds like you, but somehow never sounds kind. Today, we're not talking about silencing that voice forever. We're not pretending that it disappears. We're not going to aim for this toxic positivity or pretending like confidence means you should never doubt yourself. We're literally talking about interrupting the spiral. We're talking about a 10-minute routine that I have incorporated, and hopefully it helps you, that stops negative self-talk before it literally hijacks your day. Because here's the truth, negative self-talk isn't a personality flaw. It's a habit that we have created over time. And the good thing is that habits can be interrupted. So I want to start by normalizing something. If you're a driven person, if you're thoughtful, if you're self-aware, if you care so deeply about doing things well, you are more likely to struggle with negative self-talk, not less. Because your brain is actually consistently scanning for improvement. It's scanning for risk and what could go wrong. And we all have an inner critic. I have given my inner critic a name. Her name is Patty. She's not evil, but she thinks she's just protecting me. But when it's unchecked, it becomes really, really loud and relentless and exhausting. And over time, when it does that, it starts to sound like the truth. And so here's what most people do when negative talk shows up, right? They argue with it, or they try to reason with it, or replace it with affirmations that they don't believe. And maybe they even shame themselves for thinking that way in the first place. But the reality is that none of that works, because you cannot out-logic a nervous system that feels unsafe. And negative self-talk is rarely about facts. It's actually about regulation. And that's why this routine works, because it doesn't try to convince you of anything, but it brings you back into your body and out of the spiral. So let's just get into it. Let's talk about the routine. 10 minutes. We don't have anything fancy. There's no special tools that I have for you. And actually, we're not going to talk about doing journaling marathons. Imagine. And there's no pretending. You guys, we're not going to pretend that we love ourselves every second of every day, because that's not reality. But we are going to take 10 intentional minutes to sort of reset the pattern. And I know that 10 minutes feels really, really, really long. And it is. It's a long time. And there's a reason for that. But I want you to listen to this as an invitation, not another thing to perfect. And so the first minute is to really name the voice. This matters more than you think. And you notice that I gave mine a name, and her name is Patty. But the moment that you notice negative self-talk, you pause and you name it. Not judge it, not fix it. We're just naming it. And you can say, oh, here's Patty again. Here she comes. Look at her. She's all dressed up with her like negative self-talk, and today she's wearing like bright red. Or if you don't give it a name, you can say exactly what it is. This is my inner critic. This is fear. Or maybe this is just my brain trying to protect me. Because when you name it, you're actually creating space. And you stop identifying as the thought and start observing it from a 500-foot view lens. And what this does is it no longer puts you inside of like the storm that's happening, right? Where you feel like, oh my gosh, the world is spinning. But you're actually watching the weather that's on display. Like you are front porch sitting and you can see the rain coming. And that alone, when you can take yourself out of the middle of the cyclone, that alone lowers the intensity. And so we're just going to take some super deep breaths and we're going to breathe like we mean it in minute 2. And I know everyone says to breathe, but most people, did you know this? Most people breathe so shallow and fast when they're anxious or critical. And most people actually breathe shallow when they're working, which is insane to me. But for 1 full minute, we're going to take full belly deep breaths where you slow it down. In through your nose. Long exhale through your mouth. And you're basically telling your system, I'm not in danger. I don't need to have fight or flight on. Because negative self-talk actually thrives in the urgency. It thrives in the fight or flight. And so when you're doing these deep breaths and you're concentrating on the deep, long inhale and the deep, long exhale, slow breathing removes the fuel that is happening and trying to feed the negative self-talk. So we're going to do that for a minute. And then on minute 3, we're going to ground into the physical. And this is where people underestimate the power of being in tune with their body. Because you're actually going to bring attention to your body. If you're sitting in a chair, you're going to plant your feet on the floor. Put your back wholly against the chair. Roll your shoulders to the back. And hands resting somewhere solid, either on the armrest or on your lap. And you might even press your feet down right into the floor so that you can feel it. And maybe every inhale, you're pushing your feet into the floor. And you might roll your shoulders and notice that you need to unclench your jaw and swivel your head back and forth. Because all of these spirals live in the head. Grounding lives in the body. And when you come back to the physical, the thoughts lose their authority. They have to succumb to what is actually happening inside of your body. And minute 4, we're gonna give it a reality check. This is not reassurance, but we're gonna give it some reality. And this is so important because you're not here to actually hype yourself up. You're here to be honest and ask yourself, what is actually true right now? Not what might happen. Don't say what might happen. Don't name what you're afraid of. Don't name what you're predicting. What is true? I'm having a hard day. I made a mistake. I don't know. I don't know what is wrong. I don't have clarity. But that is true. And truth is steady. Catastrophizing is loud. And so this step anchors you in reality instead of imagination. What is true right now? And so as you move into minute 5, you're going to start to separate your worth from performance. And this is where negative self-talk loves to hook you. It says, hey, queen, you messed up. Guess what? You're a problem. And you're failing because you're behind. You're welcome. Or maybe it even says like, I know you're tired, but that's because you're weak. You're just a weak person. So for 1 minute, if you intentionally separate who you are from what you're experiencing, and you can even say this out loud, I am not my productivity. I am not my emotions. I am not in this moment. It's not denial, but it's about perspective. Because your worth does not come from the negative self-talk. Your worth has come from who you actually are. Because productivity, emotions, and the moments that we are living in, that's an experience, right? You are experiencing those things. But to your core, you can intentionally separate who you are. And so we're going to choose one neutral thought, and we're going to focus on this for the next minute. It's not going to be like this super positive, you're amazing today, you can do that, queen. Like it's not going to be inspirational, but it's one neutral thing. And it's something that your nervous system can accept. Maybe it's, I'm figuring this out. This moment will pass. I've been here before. I've handled hard things before. Neutral thoughts calm the system. Positive thoughts can feel super, super fake when you're spiraling. Like, have you ever had someone that you just share what's on your heart? And maybe sometimes it's negative, but maybe it's just something like you feel melancholy or whatever it is. And someone's like, well, at least you didn't blah, da, 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 da. Or, well, I mean, it'll get better. Like, you don't want to hear that. That doesn't make you feel better because you know that it's fake. You know that deep down that is fake, and you're not taking on the thoughts that meet yourself where you are. I also have transitioned my speaking to my friends that when they are sharing something that is super intimate and just super hard, I'm trying to get better at saying, it's going to be okay. Like, this too will pass. And that is a cliche thing to say, but at the core, at the reality, it will pass. Or I've said, you've done hard things before. You're gonna get on the other side of this. Or you're gonna figure it out. Because to me, that feels way more motivating than being like, well, you got this. Does she? Like, does she got it? Because she just came to you and explained how she was off the rails. But when you say to her, like, you can figure this out, it puts your mind in a different sort of perspective that is neutral, that is regulating the nervous system to say, hey, I have tools and I have capabilities that I can figure this out. Meet yourself where you are. And so we're going to interrupt this loop with a movement, because negative self-talk is repetitive, right? It's the same story every time. It is what really fuels it. And when you give yourself movement, it breaks the loop. So even like standing up, stretching, walking to another room. Sometimes I put on some music and just kind of like shake it out. Like just shake out your arms and just put on a hype song that just gets you going. Because you're not running away. You're actually shifting the state in which your body is responding. And then the state change creates mental flexibility. So then what happens is you're able to name the one thing that you can control. And spirals make everything feel super overwhelming to the point where you don't even know where to start first. So now we get to narrow the lens and we get to ask ourselves, what's one thing that I can do next? One glass of water, one small task, one email, one text, right? Control restores agency, and agency quiets the critic. And then we get to speak to ourselves like a leader, not like a cheerleader, like a grounded, regulated leader. What would you say to a friend or a team member in this moment? Probably not, but more like, hey, we'll figure it out. You know, like this doesn't define who you are. And you probably would tell them, okay, well, let's, take this one step at a time. Use that tone with yourself. And this is what makes it a routine instead of one-off, is when you close the loop, right? You acknowledge the effort, not the outcome. The effort. I showed up. I interrupted the spiral. I took care of myself. And that reinforces safety. And safety reduces the need for the critic to yell. Now, let me say this clearly. This routine doesn't eliminate negative self-talk forever. But what it does is it stops it from ruining the day and running it. And it shortens the spiral. And it reduces the damage. It really brings you back into choice. And over and over and over again, when you do this, the voice gets quieter. Not because you fought it and won, but because you've stopped letting it drive. And I've mentioned before that, we like to put fear in the driver's seat of the bus. And when we start working on moving fear one seat, all of a sudden they're in the back seat of the bus. And here's what I want you to remember. Negative self-talk isn't the truth. It's information. It's information about stress. It's information about fear. It's information about maybe unmet needs that you have. And so when you respond with regulation instead of reaction, everything changes. Like, you don't need to become someone who never doubts themselves. You really need to become someone who knows how to come back to center. And sometimes it just takes 10 minutes. Sometimes for some of us, it takes 5 minutes. But however long it takes, you're not broken. You're a human. And you're allowed to lead yourself with compassion and authority. Hey, friend. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If something in this episode clicked for you, I want you to shoot me a DM over on Instagram. The link is in the show notes. Let's chat about how you're making the messy middle work for you. If you loved what you heard, would you mind sharing this episode with a friend who needs to hear it too? And drop a quick review if you don't mind. It helps get the word out, and I appreciate it more than you know. Catch you in the next one.